Yo, 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 what is good? It is Threadguy, and we are live here in Brussels, Belgium, with a very special guest and a very special episode. We are joined by Meredith Patterson on the podcast. Meredith, thank you for joining me. How are you? How are you doing? How are we?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think this will be a very unique one compared to a lot of the episodes that I've filmed and recorded. So I think a lot of people are looking forward to this one.
I think it's gonna be fun. I mean, I may end up, if anybody's particularly invested in, the meme of Len being Satoshi, you may be disappointed. But if you're here for the lore, I'll give you all the lore that's fit to ask about.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I love some fucking lore. I mean, I think the best place to start is how we ended up here, which is this fucking this documentary.
Yeah. I mean.
So did you actually watch it?
I did not.
Okay.
My dad did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did he think?
He thought it kind of wasted his time, actually.
Yeah.
He was a little pissed that he resubscribed to HBO just for that.
Yeah, I think that the subscriptions on HBO went up significantly due to this documentary. But I think like a lot of people basically just like skipped to the end to kind of see what.
I mean, like if I have no idea. It's funny. I've kind of like. I hadn't been paying as much attention to crypto markets in the last couple of years, until like this weekend. Mm-hmm. But if somebody's writing options on like HBO monthly active users, maybe next month is the time to buy the dip.
Yeah. So what is your relationship with paying attention to crypto markets and trading and like holding crypto in 2024?
Well, I mean, like I said, it hadn't been very much. Yeah. Like, I've certainly like given talks about crypto related topics at conferences. But it's never really been like my main area of focus. Even when I was working on a digital cash system professionally for about a year and a half.
What was that?
That was that was called Carton Belay. When it was deployed in East Timor, which is the world's second youngest country.
Oh, where is that?
It used to be part of Indonesia, so it's like half of an island in Southeast Asia, and in 2017 I had just gotten my permanent residency, and my buddy Emerson Tan, who does a bunch of volunteer work for like Doctors Without Borders and Map Action and other disaster relief charities like that. There had been kind of a big perspective shift in the charity world. Like people were starting to wake up to the fact that the most efficient way to get aid to people after a disaster is not, hand them ration cards and bags of grain. It's just give them money and they'll figure out what they need for themselves. Yeah. Like the market solves that problem in a small enough environment super easily, way better than central planning can. So, his goal was to build a digital cash system that would work offline. Because in a disaster, you don't necessarily have a network that you can depend on, so you can't use a blockchain.
And did this exist before? You can't use a blockchain. That's interesting.
Right, because
you can't just give them crypto.
Well, because with a blockchain, it has to because a blockchain needs to always be talking to the network. Right. So we had to figure out a way to compose primitives, in the same way that people compose primitives to build coins. But we needed to build something that was blockchain-like, but not a blockchain, because it had to be able to tolerate dropping off the network for long periods of time.
And you worked on this?
Yeah. I designed it. We got a team. We built it. I did not actually get to go to East Timor myself because I had to. I had some personal stuff going on in my life, and like just kind of had to take some time off. But yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating though.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of the closest I had really come to like, working directly on blockchain stuff myself. I'm not much of a trader, and I'd kind of gotten bored with like just the I guess they're calling it Web 2 now, just the layer 2 coins, because it kind of seemed like, all we weren't really seeing much innovation anymore. We were just seeing, new flavors of smart contract coins, and then like, suddenly crypto exchanges like issuing their own token became a thing, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because it was just bringing us back. It was kind of dragging us back in the direction of banks, right?
Do you think that's the vibe from a lot of like early crypto adopters, that it's kind of stale and like a lack of new exciting things to do in 2024?
I definitely think a lot of people who like were more enthusiastic about it early on have definitely like gotten less enthusiastic. I think because they view it as like, just kind of like a wall of bots a lot of the time. And there definitely can be a wall of bots. Like no argument there.
Yeah.
But, it didn't actually take that long to like kind of learn how to pay attention and figure out like, okay, who's a real human and who's not.
Oh,
and
interesting.
like, I don't pick up on these things super fast.
I wish Twitter could figure it out.
That would be nice. Yes. Yeah, no, it's weird. I'm internet friends with one of the founders of Dreamwidth.
Okay.
Which is like a tiny independent social media site. It takes no ads. They were a fork from LiveJournal.
Okay.
Back in the early 2000s, I guess. Like they were the group that like when LiveJournal got sold to a Russian company, basically like their head of trust and safety and a couple of other people were like, fuck it, we're forking the code base and building our own with blackjack and hookers. And they've been quietly running that, and like, getting involved in all kinds of like anti-censorship cases on, for social media. Like they joined NetChoice, and they're and now I don't remember why I brought this up.
I don't know. We were talking about bots.
Right. Yes. So like, yeah, she talks all the time about how she like, they're a small enough site that, they have automated tools for most of their like bot account creation detection, and, only a small list that has to be manually reviewed. And she's talked about how like, her sense of what's a bot, has developed to almost an instinct over time.
Oh, really?
Like she can look at a profile and just has like she'll have like a gut feeling one way or another that like this is a bot. She also does other things to verify, of course, but yeah, like it's wild how like human pattern matching intuition has can develop in that way. Like when Co-Host announced like a week or so ago that they're closing.
Okay.
LiveJournal had a huge Dreamwidth had a huge influx of new members, and like, she ended up like she was telling me about how she had to basically like redevelop her sense of what's a bot on the fly, because
it's
like
happening fast,
because it was happening pretty fast. And yeah,
interesting.
So Grok is definitely not there yet.
Yeah, hopefully we get there. Going back to the documentary.
Yeah.
Tell me about your last weekend.
Oh my God. So like I woke up on like Friday, I think, October, whatever the fuck date October the 5th was. Yeah. And I'm like, why is my Twitter dinging like crazy? I haven't done anything on Twitter in ages. And yeah, so I look and I find out okay, there's this documentary. And furthermore,
And you didn't know anything about it?
I did not know a single thing about it. Yeah, I had no idea this was
Is
coming.
that like bizarre to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I didn't actually watch the documentary.
Yeah.
I don't have a sense of like whether Len really even came up.
I think very minimally.
Yeah, that was kind of the impression I had. But like, yeah, the first thing I was really able to make sense of was, oh, Polymarket is giving Len not just a plurality, but a clear majority for who they're going to name as Satoshi.
I think for the first, like, I want to say the trailer came out like a week before. Like, it came out on a Tuesday, on a Monday, and then it like dropped on a Monday kind of deal. I think for the first like 72 hours, Len was like ranging between like 35 and maybe as high as like 60% on Polymarket, which was crazy.
Wow. Man, I could have bought no at 40
Yeah.
cents. That would have been amazing.
So you would have bought no.
I would have bought no, but I chickened out. I was like, man, I just have so little information about what's actually happening here because, like I said, they had not talked to me at all.
Well, and that's the catch too, is no could be right, but it's not the
It's
truth.
not about
It's
what's
HBO
true. It's about what
decides.
HBO decides to say. Because I was seriously thinking about buying some no.
Okay.
But
so you weren't contacted by them.
No, they
Your
didn't.
Twitter is going fucking berserk.
My Twitter's going fucking berserk, and and I keep reading, and I come to realize that okay, not only is Polymarket going crazy about Len, there's meme coins of Len, of our cat Sasha, of my cats Odin and Bounce, of my mom's cat Mocha, of my sister's dog Sugar Bear, and of me.
Is this your first time having meme coins being created about your family pets?
Yes. Yes. Very much so. Yeah. That was an incredibly novel experience, and like I said, I had kind of not been paying I've been gradually paying less and less attention to crypto over time, just because it was starting to look more and more like a reflection of the existing fiat banking system. With most of the power being centralized in exchanges, and like this was actually kind of a really nice kick in the head that hey, like DeFi isn't actually fucking around. Yeah, no, like I've had thoughts for I had thoughts in fact for a very long time about figuring out how to build a distributed exchange that wouldn't be prone to the kinds of perverse incentives that took down FTX, for instance.
Interesting.
Yeah. But people are already starting to do that kind of thing now, which is awesome.
So you feel like basically meme coins being created of your family pets has sort of like re-inspired a little bit of confidence into like the
it
crypto
actually
mission.
has, because I'm seeing more decentralization. Like I'm seeing the return to decentralization that was, I think, what was the most inspiring thing to people about the original Bitcoin. Because every single digital currency system prior to that had to rely on some kind of centralized authority. Whether it was like the token issuer in Hal Finney's rpows, like when you spent an rpow, you actually had to do it through the centralized exchange, which.
So I'm not super familiar with rpow.
rpow stands for reusable proof of work token.
Okay.
So,
and Hal Finney created this?
Yeah, Hal Finney created that back in 2005.
2005, jeez.
Yeah. I was still in grad school back then.
I was 3, so.
I could literally be your mom.
And can you explain the concept of how it works?
So I probably should have like refreshed on some of these papers last night, but yeah, no, it's been a while. But in broad strokes, the idea was it used the same kind of proof of work mechanism as Hashcash, and indeed later Bitcoin, finding a SHA-1 collision of a certain size, which is to say, adding basically hashing random strings with with a message or the content of the transaction in the case of rpows in such a way that the operation that gets constructed has a certain ends in some certain number of zeros.
Okay.
And so this is how Bitcoin's difficulty increases work, right? You have to get a better and better hash collision as the difficulty increases.
Okay.
And so in the case of rpows, when you sent somebody some tokens, because the rpow central bank was what issued you that was what created valid tokens in the first place by signing them. You would send the message of your transaction to both the person you're sending it to and the central bank. The central bank would remint new coins and new tokens and send them to the the person.
Okay,
so
interesting.
yeah, you can kind of see how this underlying primitive of prove that you've done enough work to get me a collision at least this good. Hashcash used that for Hashcash used that as the notion of stamp value on an email. It was a technique to try to make spam more expensive for spammers. So make everybody who's sending you an email do a little bit of computation, not a huge amount.
Okay.
But certainly.
And who created Hashcash?
That was Adam Back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so whoever Satoshi to create Bitcoin clearly took some inspiration from rpow and Hashcash.
Yeah, because you can definitely see the underlying primitives being used, getting elaborated on more and more until you finally have the complete system of Bitcoin. And just to be clear, I'm not saying it's Adam, and I'm not saying it's and I'm not saying it's Hal. I mean, the main reason I don't think it's Hal is because I knew Hal, and
oh really?
Not well. I mean, but he and Len were friends. They had worked together at PGP, and I'd actually joined the Adam Back's Hashcash mailing list. I want to say in 2004 or something because I saw it on Slashdot.
Huh.
Yeah.
So if my history is right, I was reading up on this. I don't know a ton about the early Bitcoin Satoshi history, but the first Bitcoin transaction was sent to Hal Finney. And the first Satoshi message was sent to Adam Back.
I think that's right. About the email to Adam Back.
Okay.
But I think that would also make sense insofar as the core stored value mechanism.
So you don't think it was Hal Finney?
I don't think it was Hal Finney.
Do you think he was involved, or maybe had a close personal relationship?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
I mean, Hal clearly recognized the importance of what was going on immediately.
Yeah.
And Len was definitely always much more of a skeptic.
Really?
Both online and to me personally.
About Bitcoin or just in general?
Kind of in general, but especially about Bitcoin.
Okay, why was he a skeptic of Bitcoin?
Well, yeah. Apart from being skeptical about everything.
Everything, yeah.
yeah. No, it was mostly technical reasons. he was not a fan of the communication complexity of the original Gossip Protocol, for example.
Okay.
Have you heard of Metcalfe's law?
No.
It basically says that the value of a network expands as the square of the number of nodes in the network.
Okay. So the more nodes, the more valuable.
Yeah, the more nodes, the more value. But that value,
Like exponentially.
but that value that value goes up. So when we say exponentially in like computer science, we're saying like something to the x. This is just like x squared.
Okay.
So not quite as crazy as exponential, but it is
same idea though. Yeah.
Polynomial.
Is the polynomial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One of those words you thought you'd never hear again after high school, right? But here we are.
Maybe some of us are hearing it for the first time, but
here we are. Just other stuff like he definitely pointed out to me, in person that being able to send Bitcoin to directly to an IP address, number one, was a fail for for privacy because it meant you couldn't send through Tor.
Okay.
And also, there's basically no way to defend sending directly to an IP address against a man-in-the-middle attack, which is actually a much worse problem for the system itself.
And so he was really big on privacy, right?
Yes, hugely.
Why is that, do you think?
Had a lot to do with how he grew up.
Okay.
So, I mean, for context here, he was a townie kid in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. I'm
from Virginia, so
yeah, you
close-ish.
Like, have you heard of the Hill School?
No.
Okay, so that's like the prep school in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, that like Donnie and Eric Trump went to.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
How did you end up there?
Scholarship for townie smart kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He basically got pulled out of Catholic school and sent to the Hill School.
Huh.
Yeah. So, you got to imagine, like, being on the same campus with, like, Trump's kids and, like, the children of Saudi royalty and like just all kinds of rich and powerful people from all over the place, and and he's just this kid. It was a pretty challenging environment for him.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, he kind of learned to keep himself to himself early. And part of, I think, why he clung to anonymity so early on was, because he kind of really wanted to disappear into that crowd. Like,
Interesting.
He wanted to get the education there too.
Yeah.
But, he just like really wanted to not have all the attention, especially, not getting the attention of being the poor townie kid.
Yeah.
So
that I can understand.
Yeah.
And everywhere I read said that he had like tons of pseudonyms for everything.
He did. I don't actually know what any of them were because
really,
yeah, like we didn't pry like that.
Okay, interesting. So you kind of kept a separation on some of that.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like if somebody needs me to know something, they will tell me. Yeah. And apart from that, like if they don't want anyone else to know, if I don't know, I can't slip up and accidentally say anything. And like we didn't get into this last night, but I mean, like he managed to hide an entire fucking suicide from me. Like, so when people ask me, like, do you put it past him that he could have like hid everything from me? like, and Ben Satoshi, like, given the fact that he not only managed to like hide an entire suicide from me, he also managed to like get me to do some of the heavy lifting for him. Like,
How do you reckon? Interesting.
yeah, no, because we had these big IKEA wardrobes, right, in the bedroom, and he hated them.
Okay.
And one day he asked me to, like, this was like right before I had to fly to Houston because my cat Bounce, who I mentioned earlier, was like she'd had kidney disease for a long time. Like my mom had been giving her fluids every day for a couple of years at that point. And like she'd been doing all right, but she was clearly like, you know, it was time. So Len was like, go be with your kitty. And before I left, he asked me to start disassembling the wardrobes. And when I got in, like, you know, all of the drawers and most of the hardware except for the, you know, the hanger rail at the top, yeah, I kind of didn't know I was being asked to, like, you know, construct the scene of the crime. But yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it happened when you left?
I had, you know, I'd been at my folks' place for about a week, and I was working for a company based out of Florida at the time that, you know, had mostly remote people.
Yeah.
And you know, they were talking about me having to you know, they were talking about having everybody, like, you know, come to Florida for an on-site. So you know, he was having, like, you know, some really bad lower back problems that they were like fucking with his mobility and making it difficult for him to do stuff like, you know, go out and get groceries and shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, like, so he had Crohn's disease.
Okay,
like, that he got diagnosed with that in high school. So, you know, yet another thing to be the weird kid about, right?
Fuck.
Yeah. No, the, like, biology really, like, gave him two middle fingers up in a lot of ways. But yeah, so like the treatment that, like kind of the first line treatment that they tend to use in the States for Crohn's flare-ups is prednisone, which is a corticosteroid, that tends to lead to, like, bone density depletion.
Okay.
So he had like moderate osteopenia and was, like, you know, parts of his lower spine were just starting to degenerate. And yeah, so, like, you know, he walked with a cane.
Okay.
For the last couple of years of his life. So, like, you know, we have this friend, Ted McDolan, lives up in North Bay. And Ted's an EMT. And, like, you know, was working, like, you know, caregiver jobs at nursing homes and stuff like that. So, you know, we asked Ted if he'd be willing to come out and, like, just keep Len company.
While you were gone?
While I was gone, yeah, exactly. And Ted was like, yeah, I'm up for it. So we bought him a plane ticket. And so, like, Ted lands and, you know, calls Len and doesn't get an answer. So, you know, he gets on the train from the airport and he goes to Leuven and makes his way to the house and rings the doorbell. And nobody answers. So, you know, now Ted's starting to think like an EMT. And so he looks up at the, you know, here we call it the first floor. In America, it would be the second floor. But yeah, the upstairs apartment. And, you know, notices that there's a window open. So, our apartment was on, like, this little side street that kind of went up a hill and ended at a church.
Okay.
So Ted goes up to the church and borrows a ladder. Like, He didn't just like 5-finger discount himself a ladder out of a church. Like he found somebody and asked. But he so he puts the ladder up to the window and then climbs up, and first thing he sees is Len hanging from the rail in the wardrobe, and also Sasha very hungry and very upset. Like, yeah, Sasha was Len's cat, like,
wow,
first and foremost. So, yeah.
What year was that?
That was 2011.
2011.
2011.
And you were in Florida? I
had not left for Florida yet. Like, we found out on July 3rd, and everybody I worked with knew him. And so, yeah, they were like, nope, we're calling off the on-site.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so I had to fly back to Belgium and take care of funeral arrangements and everything. And yeah, it was weird, but the unexpected happy ending to the story, I guess, is that, so there's 4 different hacker spaces in Belgium, kind of like, community workshops, people share tools like 3D printers and laser cutters and stuff. And at the time there were 4 of them in Belgium, and all of them just converged on my apartment in Leuven. And 4 days later, I was moved into the apartment in Brussels that I'm still in now. So I was like, if I've got friends this good here,
that's awesome.
I'm just gonna stay here. And it took a little work to actually to reestablish my residency and everything, because Belgium is kind of famous for how bureaucratic and Byzantine its politics are. But yeah, no, it eventually worked out. Well,
that's awesome.
I got permanent residency in 2017. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I'm staying here.
Yeah, fuck yeah, and I love it here. Did you leave anything behind?
I mean, he left a note, obviously. I still have that. We were living on a grad student salary, right? So we didn't have a lot in the way of stuff. Lots of fountain pens. He really got into fountain pens and ink chemistry, just kind of as a hobby, and developed a fantastic collection.
That's awesome. I love a good pen.
Oh man, I should have brought you one.
Oh fuck. I don't know if this is too far. I don't want to push. What if you want to share? You don't have to. But what was on the note?
It wasn't. I mean, it was personal. It was all specifically apologies to specific people. I've seen rumors about, his suicide note was 24 random words. No,
that's what Google says.
Yeah, no, his suicide note was. Google needs to stop saying that, because his suicide note was absolutely not a wallet.
Fucking seed phrase.
It was not a fucking seed phrase. No, it was a letter that you could tell he was hurting in it, and he was telling people goodbye. But yeah, there was nothing that would even slightly suggest a seed phrase. And I guess there's also kind of a stack of old laptops that's
yeah. So what's up with the laptops?
Well, at this point, I've tried I picked up an IDE to USB adapter.
So there's multiple laptops?
Yeah, he had 4 or 5 laptops over the course of. I mean, and most of these were most of them are gonna be ones that he was using, when we just met. But I figure if I'm gonna dig through one laptop, might as well dig through them all.
Go through all.
Yeah.
And you have them all? 45
No, I mean, people literally packed up everything in the apartment and just brought it to Brussels.
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, so I've got this stack of laptops.
Mm-hmm.
I got an IDE drive reader and plugged the newest one in, bearing in mind that the newest one is from a laptop that he got in like 2009.
Okay.
So kind of an old drive in the first place.
Yeah.
So I plugged it in, didn't mount, like Linux kernel didn't recognize it at all. Nothing showed up in dmessage.
Were you expecting that?
It's always a risk. Like some drives will just spin up fine. Some of them just like the heads are frozen or something. Yeah. But this one, like I could hear it trying to spin up and then just a very quiet little tick, 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 tick. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's no good. Mm-hmm. So, I've pulled that one and, for the longest time, my reason for procrastinating on that was basically just that, sending 5 or 6 drives to a professional recovery service is going to cost me like $10,000. And, I can, mm-hmm. I always had like, I can think of other things I kind of need to spend $10,000 on more,
rather than
but
this.
after this weekend, like I can actually just do that, so like, thanks Memecoins.
Yeah. Thanks Memecoins. So it would cost $10,000 to like decrypt all these laptops. What do you?
Well, I mean, it'll let's not overstate, right?
Okay.
It would probably be about $10,000 to recover just the raw bits off the laptops. Some of those are definitely going to be encrypted.
So what? Yeah. So I'm not super familiar like with how that works.
In full disk encryption, there is a password that you can set that you have to enter in order to unlock the the entire drive. Mm-hmm. Before the operating system even starts up.
And without a password.
And without that password, all you have is an encrypted volume.
Okay.
The good news there is, I do have friends in the InfoSec industry who, work on data recovery of that nature professionally.
Okay.
And like they've offered to help. So
you think? I think with pretty good odds you could get into the laptop.
I think there's pretty good odds that we can get into the laptops. And I think there's pretty good odds that we can finally just kind of put this question to bed one way or another.
So I have to ask as a follow-up, what do you think is on the laptop?
There might be like a software, an early software CPU wallet, like with a handful of coins in it, but I really don't think I'm going to find 1.1 million Bitcoins.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Do you think there's any like information on Satoshi, Bitcoin, early conversations?
I mean,
never before seen messages.
I've definitely found some early conversations, although none of them amazingly exciting.
Okay.
Right. Like
early conversations between whom?
Oh, like Len talking with Dan Kaminsky about a talk that Dan was giving in 2009.
Okay.
That mentioned Bitcoin.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, but that was mostly just like, hey, can you help me? Can you take a look at my slides and like give me any advice on anything that you would change or say differently?
Do you think there's anything special about like this particular laptop? Was this like the main one, or like the one that was used the most, or it just happens to be a laptop around that time?
It's literally just the newest of the laptops that he had. I figure I'll go ahead and send all however many of them there are in, because that, can't hurt, right?
Is there anything that you want to find on it? Like, would you send it in with expectations of like you hope that blank is recovered in the laptop?
There's a lot of photos actually that like never made it onto Flickr. So that would, that I would definitely like to get back. Like, so if you look at kind of like the game theory of the whole thing, right? You can sort of think of it as a Pascal's wager, but for money. Like, I can spend I can spend some money on getting the drives read, and if there's if he's not Satoshi, or if or even if like he was Satoshi but did everything, say, like on some private server somewhere that nobody has access to anymore, then in that case I'm down however much it cost to to recover the data, but I'll probably get a bunch of long lost pictures back, and so that's you can't really put a monetary value on that, but that's at least some upside to doing that.
I have a proposal.
Okay.
For you.
Okay.
With no strings attached.
Okay.
Is because because we're having this conversation, the laptop lore, Satoshi is like so interesting. I think there's a lot, like there just is a lot of people that are like dying to know what's on this fucking laptop. I know for a fact that my community that watches this podcast, that is a fan of me on Twitter, whatever, would 100% fill the $10,000 to pay to get this laptop, to basically see what's inside. If you're maybe open to like documenting the non-personal side of what's on it, maybe if there's like interesting findings, messages, if you can finally put to rest the Satoshi conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
if you'd be open to documenting some of it, like I think we could totally find a way to like fund this laptop. And you don't have to give me an answer right now, but I think it's fascinating. Like I have to offer, because I think it would be the most interesting thing for crypto lore and for the community. I
think we'd have to figure out, a few kind of contingencies, behind the scenes, like, for example, what happens if I'm incredibly wrong and like, oh my God, now what am I going to do to protect myself? Right?
100%.
Yeah.
So, no, we would set everything up in the background. We would like, and I think only share what wants to get shared, everything. But I think for like crypto community as a whole, it's like, there's a lot of people that are just like dying to know.
And I also think it's only fair that I like get an actual quote from the from the service I'm going to use.
Okay.
But because like it's easy to just like pull a number out of your ass.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll bring receipts.
Okay, cool. We'll do that. We'll get a quote, and then we'll see like.
Yeah, we can figure this out.
Cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I think it's like I'm fascinated, and every article you read on the internet, it all comes back to the fucking laptop. Like there's so many people that want to know what's on it. So
yeah, well, I mean, it'll hopefully answer a lot of people's questions, and again, I'm sorry that I expect that a lot of people will be disappointed. But the other thing, like the thing that's I think probably going to keep blowing my mind about this past weekend for a while is just like how much people have started to learn about Len and like think about the things he's doing. It's like it's kind of becoming more than just a meme coin.
See, that's the best part of the story
to a lot of people, which is just wild. Like, I mean, shit. At one point during like the reign of meme coins, suddenly I get an from an account that like was pumping a Pynchon gate coin, and that was the name of the last crypto system that Len designed, and there were they airdropped a couple million on me like out of the blue, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Are you guys building it? And about 5 minutes later, the account comes back with, I'll be honest, I don't have the capacity to do it myself, but I have the people and I have the funding. Let's fucking go.
That's sick.
It is. So yeah, like, he's got a couple of people that he's worked with for a while. I've brought on some people from teams of my own past. And
so what is Pynchon Gate?
Okay, so the Pynchon Gate is an information theoretically private information retrieval protocol.
Okay.
What I mean when I say information theoretically private, that's to distinguish it from cryptographically private.
Okay.
Right? So you can kind of think of it as like a database where people can, that can store data for, whether that's messages to, or just files belonging to, or whatever. It stores data for some pseudonym.
Okay. And
in a cryptographic PIR system, it's possible. It's cryptographically hard to de-anonymize whoever's retrieving the information. To link the owner to the data. The problem with that, though, is that if the underlying crypto primitives that the system is constructed out of, if any of them get broken, then your cryptographic PIR system falls apart. The reason the big advantage to cryptographic PIR, however, is that it's much faster than information theoretic PIR, which is a little on the slow side comparatively, but has the advantage that even with all of the cracking power in the known universe, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
It's not. I mean, I'm gonna caveat this because, like, I really do take, okay? That's.
No, you're good. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna caveat that because I really do take, like, I really do take my promises seriously, and so I don't want to, like, give people any wrong ideas. That is contingent on, like, the feds don't own every single network you're on.
Okay.
Right. Like, the Tor has run into some problems lately where, like, people are freaking out about, like, oh my God, it's Tor insecure. No, what's happening is that, like, governments are starting to run their own Tor nodes, and those are faithless endpoints, and they betray people. And, like, this is part of how law enforcement busts people on the darknet. That's just how that happens now.
Like, is there any way to identify that that's happening, like, on Tor?
You can't really tell whether the whether a node that's if you can figure out that the FBI is operating it, maybe. Okay. But they're not going to be, like, running that on FBI infrastructure. They're going to be running it on, like, Amazon or something stupid like that.
Like 2 days ago, this post came out on Twitter that the FBI, like, launched a meme coin
for the love of God.
I think it's called Next Fund AI, and they basically like contracted a bunch of like illegal like market making services and like influencers to do bullshit, and like I think there was like 15 people that were.
Oh my God! So it's just a sting.
Yeah, the whole thing was like a FBI launched meme coin.
That is just a straight up fucking sting. Oh my God!
Is that surprising to you without everything that you know about what goes on?
I'm kind of kicking myself for not expecting it. Basically,
I felt the same. See, I felt the same way. I felt the same way.
Yeah. Holy shit! It's like, all right. They're you know, they've got their own attack strategies, and you know, like police have been using stings since the 1800s.
How would you? What's a sting?
Oh, like it's when the cops go out and pretend to.
Oh, okay.
You know, like like you know, cop pretending to be a pimp, female cop pretending.
Yeah,
to,
got it.
Yeah, I mean, holy shit! Like, and I guess they can probably claim it wasn't entrapment because they're gonna claim because they're gonna stand up there in court and be like, oh, well, we were just a legit meme coin, and then all these scammers came to us,
all these scammers,
and we engaged with them and realized they were trying to scam us. And I mean, I guess, you know, like, fuck around and find out, guys. But
yeah,
but yeah, I'm betting this won't be the first then. Cause
though it can't be, right? Like you see that, and it's like, all right, it's the first that we know about, right?
Yeah. How did people figure out that it was the FBI, or did they just like straight up admit it or something?
I need to go back and look at the tweets. Maybe we'll pop it up on the screen, but I don't know. But it was I'll send you the thread if I find it. I think Zach XBT posted it. It was pretty funny.
Okay.
It's like created from like FBI on like they like fucked up something in a smart contract, and like it's a whole like yeah. Like I think somebody found it. Like I don't think that they like made it public that they did this.
Well, I mean, shit. Like, they've seized so many assets from so many different entities over the course of time, right? Do they? I wonder if they just have, you know, some field office that sits down and thinks up, like, you know, what are some funny things we could do with all this crypto we've seized? No, like, seriously. Now
I believe it.
I want to trace back, like, now I want to actually take a look at the.
Yeah. I'll send you it.
No, for the love of God, like, me getting a meme coin made about myself doesn't make me go learn how to read Solana contracts. Yeah. Finding out that the FBI fucked something up and wondering where the money came from is the thing that's going to make me learn how to read Solana contracts.
I mean, they have like unlimited crypto, right? With all the Silk Road Bitcoin and shit.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and I actually have really no concept of like what the legal status of any of that is.
Yeah, at all.
Like, you know, can they just like, you know, roll out BTC meme coin?
Yeah. The timeline might be off on this, but did you have any relationship with Ross?
DPR?
Yeah.
No, I never did. Sorry, the first place my mind goes when I hear Ross is Ross Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Who literally wrote the book on security engineering. Like like textbook that's used in pretty much every computer security engineering course.
Oh, okay, no shit.
Yeah. He was a professor at Cambridge, and unfortunately we lost him to I think it was a heart attack like earlier this year.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, that was what the funny look about Ross was for. Was for. But yeah, no, I followed all of that in the news, of course, like when it came out, because you know it was clear that this was going to be a case that really defined the way that U.S. law enforcement looked at cryptocurrency, and. Yeah, it was a nail biter, and I think it was it was also a really good example of just how difficult it is for somebody to maintain a public persona like Satoshi did.
Yeah.
And never fucking slip up once.
See, this is the thing that is like so wild to me. Is like, how has nobody been able to figure it out? Like, how is Satoshi like so perfect in anonymity and like covering tracks and like never, like, you would think that there's been so many people, you probably know better than me, over the years that have like dedicated their lives to figuring out like, who is this? Like, where's the wallet? What's the seed phrase? Where's the million Bitcoin? Like,
yeah, like
no one's been able to do it.
Yeah, some people like have honestly gotten kind of like uncomfortably obsessed with that. Like I've had literal blackmail attempts.
Really?
Yeah, like it's soft blackmail. It's like, people sending me, long emails laying out their case for why they're certain that that it was Len,
and that
and insisting that I must know, and that they're gonna out me whether I want them to or not, blah 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 blah. It's and then it's like, you just kind of start skipping over the until you find out what the demand is.
Yeah.
Which is invariably, so are you going to support my project? And it's like, fuck you, Betty.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, there has been, like, there's that one photo that's that I've seen going around recently, that has the proceedings from that 1999 information theory symposium in the Benelux. The reason, the thing that people are like zeroing in on in that photo is the copy of the 1999 proceedings of the information theory symposium in the Benelux.
So what is that?
So then, and the reason they're zeroing in on that book is because that's one of the only citations in the original Bitcoin white paper to one of the papers there that was presented by a couple of other people from Kazakh, the group that he was in at KU Leuven. And that photo was actually taken in his office. He had like just a student office that he shared with a couple of other people, and that was the shared bookshelf in the office. I think people have been like assuming that like that photo was taken in our apartment or something, but no, that's the office bookshelf.
Okay.
So, did he have access to that paper? Absolutely. Did a lot of other people have access to that paper? Also, absolutely.
So what's special about the paper?
It lays out a lot of the cryptographic underpinnings of the linked timestamp chain, like kind of as a cryptographic primitive, and then that gets used directly in Bitcoin. And like there are absolutely other examples of linked timestamp chains as a primitive. Git, for example, like literally the version control system, it uses Merkle trees. It is a linked timestamp. It is a linked timestamping system. As a matter of fact, when I started at Mount Noah, and they asked me to design a digital cash system that worked offline, the very first draft, this is the absolute bare bones of how it works, and we're going to throw it away because no way in hell are we ever going to deploy this, was written in Bash and Git. Like literally, we built a centralized digital cash system on on version control as a primitive because because Git incorporates signing.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And of course, the main reason that the main reason that system was centralized was because when you're talking about deploying a digital currency at a national level, there already is a central issuing authority involved. It's called a central bank. So ironically, like our design was a lot more similar to rpows in terms of we didn't have a central issuer issuing the tokens directly, because you couldn't require that always online connection to the central issuer. What we did instead was the central bank issues you keys. It issues you signing keys, and we literally used BIP16, like the Bitcoin the Bitcoin wallet protocol, as the key derivation function.
That's wild.
Yeah. No, I mean we certainly borrowed heavily from innovations that the crypto world has brought us, even if we couldn't, even if we were constrained by the shape of the problem.
Interesting.
Not to use a blockchain directly.
You mentioned rpow, and then it brought me back. I think like the very beginning, you mentioned in passing that you like knew Hal Finney. Yeah. So what was your relationship like?
I didn't know him well. Okay. I mean, I met him for the first time at that CodeCon in 2005.
Okay.
Because I also gave a talk, although not on the same day. Hal's talk was on the first day. Mine was on the last day.
And he was talking about rpow?
He was, yeah. He had just published rpows to the Hashcash list.
Like, was he sort of like a big deal in 2005? Was this like a popular talk that like people were interested in? People knew him?
It was definitely a popular talk. Yeah. Len put it as like one of the first couple of talks of the conference.
Oh, really?
Just because he knew people were going to be excited about it. Yeah. I mean, Hal himself was just this really quiet, unassuming guy, though.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, he you know the joke about like, how do you tell whether a mathematician is an extrovert?
What's the answer?
He looks at your feet when he's talking to you.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe that Hal gave off, right? Mm-hmm. But also just super friendly, encouraging kind of guy. Like he was he's the kind of guy who, like, if you needed to like talk your way through a problem you were having in something you were building, you could just like brain dump at him,
and he would just take it.
He would just take it and like smiling and nodding, and then when you were done, he would like point out like everything he saw that he thought could be improved on.
What was him and Len's relationship?
Oh, they worked together.
Yeah.
They worked together at Network Associates.
What did they work on?
So Network Associates was the company that commercialized Phil Zimmerman's PGP.
Okay.
Pretty Good Privacy.
Pretty Good Privacy.
So I wasn't actually there. I wasn't in the picture. At this point, because this was like 1999, 2000. I think they were in different departments, but they did definitely know each other and like collaborate on stuff. Mm-hmm. And they certainly talked a lot. Like, I'm trying to remember where Hal lived. He was like down towards more down towards LA, wasn't he?
Okay.
Like towards the end of his life.
Okay. I don't know.
I can't remember, but yeah, I think like I think he was. I think he wasn't super local. Mm. When we were in San Jose, and so we didn't see him like super often, but every time we did, it was great. Like, I cannot think of one single unpleasant moment with
Really?
that man.
That's sick.
Yeah, no, he's just he was a good dude, and we lost him way too fucking soon.
Damn. It feels like the most universally accepted who was Satoshi, if it was one person, is Hal Finney.
Hal is the only person I can think of who definitely had every single required piece of the skill set. Hal did know the Windows API, for example. Like, you know, he could do Windows programming. He was great at C++. You know, like I've said on Twitter, like, you know, Len was never a C++ guy. He liked his C. Okay. You know, I was always the C++ degen in the family. And before anybody asks, no, it wasn't me. I would own my apartment by now if that were the case.
There's a surprising amount of conspiracy that it was you.
There is, and like, you know, that worries me slightly because, you know, like I've kind of already had to deal with the you know, kind of gaming out the, oh Christ, what happens if they name Len, and you know, now I have to deal with, you know, people, you know, swatting my parents to try to get at me.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, like,
how often does the news cycle run of someone manically trying to figure out who Satoshi is, and then Len being like a primary suspect?
I mean, it comes and goes. Like, this is definitely the biggest it's ever been. I mean, hell, we can even put a dollar value on it now, thanks to
how crazy is that?
Thanks to Polymarket, Jesus. Yeah, I guess there's probably been like maybe 4 or 5 waves, I guess. You know, like Evan's article.
Yeah, shout out to Evan.
Shout out to Evan. Like, you know, no hate for having written the article. Like, I get where you were trying to go with it, man. Like, and the fact that everybody keeps, you know, obsessing over, you know, the question of whether Len was Satoshi when he was really, like, you know, trying to write an article about, like, taking care of our own mental health, you know. Death of the author, I guess. But like,
yeah. What do you think of the Evan article?
No, I think it's really good. Like, I think, you know, he's drawing a, you know, he's really like drawing a narrative of loss in that piece, you know, because he, you know, he goes through all of these details about, you know, what could have made Len, what are the parallels that could have, that point to Len being Satoshi. But as he's telling the story, like, you know, he's also telling you about the guy himself. And I think that's what, you know, it's a little annoying that, you know, that you know, an article that, you know, was that thoughtful has kind of led to, you know, people trying to pump me for more information, like as if they think, you know, the more they bother me, the more I can tell them. It's like, sorry guys, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Not only because I can't tell people things I don't know. It's like, I'm also just going to ignore people if they're assholes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, and there've been some other, like, you know, research teams that have reached out to me, you know, in the process of putting together, like, you know, kind of history of the cypherpunks type.
Yeah. You mentioned in passing you did, I think it was last year, a couple of interviews for a documentary. What was that?
I haven't found out whether I can talk about that. So we should probably
we'll cut that
so
down.
we should probably just be vague about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know when that one's going to be coming out, but yeah, there is going to be there is going to be one for sure that that I was interviewed for. Like I took them around Leuven and like showed them where we were.
To that last point, can you give kind of like a high level brief history of like cypherpunks in like early days?
Well, I mean, again, like I said, I wasn't there in the early days.
So like when did you kind of get involved?
2005.
2005. And what would you consider the early days?
The early days was like 97, 98, 99. But basically during the original .com boom, more or less. And in fact, like Tim May, the guy that I think he's actually the guy that started the list. He's he made bank off of a patent that he invented for Intel on correcting bit flip errors in RAM due to interference from cosmic rays. Yeah.
So what was the list? Like, how did you qualify to? How would one?
Oh, I mean, anybody could
qualify to get on.
It was just a mailing list. Any jackass could subscribe, and many jackasses did.
Yeah.
It was there are archives of it out there on the internet. I don't immediately know where any are, but I can probably dig up a couple of links. It was a wild fucking time. I mean, lots of people were posting pseudonymously. Lots of people were posting anonymously through anonymous remailers because the list was set up to accept remailer traffic. I mean, there's a very real sense, and I kind of wish that, so like free PhD thesis topic for any aspiring historians out there. There's a very clear like correlation between projects that originally developed out of discussions on the cypherpunks list and may or may not have been implemented, and papers in the academic cryptography literature about 6 to 8 years later.
Really?
Like you can basically see you can basically like plot a moving average, and like to the point where it's a little bit embarrassing for academia, the extent to which they were just kind of like cribbing from the cypherpunks list for a super long time. Yeah, I mean, like, that was actually something that Len was super pissed off about.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he wrote tons of papers largely because he clued in early on that, hey, these academics are like farming us. Yeah.
Where were these conversations taking place?
It was all just a mailing list.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, like, obviously people would, break off to like private email conversations, and
so there was just this like massive email thread with these.
Well, I mean,
like, how does that even work?
Oh my God!
Because I'm not a big email person. Like, I'm like, Twitter community. Like, what?
No, it literally just clicked that you are probably too young to remember anything before Google Groups.
Yeah, no, I'm like, what's a mailing?
Yeah. Okay. So these things still exist, right?
Okay.
But Google Groups kind of like kind of took over.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's literally just an email address, like cypherpunks at, now I don't even remember what the main. see that's how I was never there. That's how I wasn't actually there. I don't remember the fucking domain name. But in any way, the machine that had that mail server for that address on it would also have a little program that would listen for, messages coming, emails coming to the list address. And then, it had that program had a list of subscribers. And so it would just
send it to everyone.
Blast it back out to everybody else. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Not stupid complicated. And anybody could subscribe just by sending a specially formatted message to the mailing list address, and you unsubscribe the same way.
And who were the types of people getting involved, and like what were they talking about in 1998, 1999?
So
like how would I have found that if I was just a regular person on the internet back then?
Gosh, I mean, I definitely remember posts on Slashdot, for instance, about things that came out of the cypherpunks list, or later the P2P hackers list, for example, which was like that's another one that I was not on, but Bram and Len both were, and that was kind of like the P2P hackers list, for example, was a big part of how BitTorrent came to be.
Okay.
So yeah, like there weren't really as many, tech community communication hubs back then as there were now. And also the legal environment was very different.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this was back during the days when cryptography was still classified by the federal government as a munition.
What does that mean?
Like same category as nuclear weapons.
Really?
Yes, there used to be big time export controls.
Whoa.
There used to be big time export controls on all kinds of encryption software, because if you think about it, like, strong encryption has really only been around since about the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Like you hear a lot about like the Enigma machines in World War II, and and other kinds of mechanical ciphers, but those were still pretty primitive compared to the kinds of compared to the kinds of the kinds of stuff that like Whit Diffie and like Bhavesh, Shamir, and Adler were working on with like early public key cryptography, for example. And it's and public key cryptography, the ability to like keep a private key that's a secret for yourself and have a public key that you can give to others so that they can send messages to you that only you can decrypt with your private key. That's only been around since the 70s. And so, the State Department and the Department of Defense were still very much in this like kind of World War II, Korea, Vietnam War kind of mindset. And they had, and so, there were definitions that were, that made it a federal crime to export cryptographic software outside of the United States, like at all, period, even to allies.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, so like the EFF, for example, the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Okay.
They've been one of they were co-founded by John Perry Barlow from the Grateful Dead and John Gilmore.
Okay.
And they're still around. And they've been like fighting the good fight for internet freedom of all sorts for decades now. And they got involved in a federal case that that eventually made it legal to export strong encryption. Like that's literally what made the original .com boom possible, because the U.S. government decided basically so that they wouldn't have to fight the EFF about this in court. They like, there were voluntary, like, there ended up being voluntary changes made to to export regulations, and this finally made it safe enough to to send things like credit card numbers online.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we would not have had the .com boom if Bernstein versus DOJ hadn't happened.
So going back to the list, I definitely wasn't there. Is it true that the original Bitcoin white paper was distributed through that cypherpunk list?
Yeah.
And so you said you joined in 2005?
No. So I only joined the Hashcash mailing list.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was in grad school. I thought about joining it a lot, but I had looked at archives. I knew it was pretty high traffic. I knew I was not gonna finish my PhD. I didn't finish my PhD anyway. I rage quit my PhD, but
we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's like crazy lore it went to that cypherpunk list first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was kind of the obvious place for for people to it was the obvious place for people to talk about it, because there had been plenty of discussion of other kinds of digital cash systems, like David Chaum's original DigiCash, and BitGold, and lots of other stuff. And for that matter, I'm trying to remember. I cannot remember the name of the guy who was kind of the core of it. Okay. But for a while, there was a lot of discussion of a project that, like, Bram and Zuko and Len and a few other people were interested in, and it was basically going to be like, I guess, kind of imagine sort of cloud computing plus some kind of digital currency plus, like, people getting paid to donate storage or CPU to the network.
Interesting.
So it was kind of like an attempt to do everything all at once. Just to try to take all of civil society directly online, basically. Yeah. And like most attempts to do everything all at once, it never quite got off the ground. But a lot of the ideas that were discussed about that project later saw shape in other things, like BitTorrent, like Tahoe LAFS, which was, and I think still is, like a distributed storage thing. Okay. There are probably fragments in of Mojo Nation somewhere in Chia. Yeah. As well. Like, I haven't looked too closely at Chia, but it would not surprise me in the slightest.
What was your relationship with Bram Cohen like?
I mean, never incredibly close. Though you have to consider that by the time I met Bram, he was a dad to a couple of young kids already. So he was living hell and gone up in North Bay. Okay. And we were all the way down in San Jose to start with. So like we certainly got together, like, when Len was in town. Len was definitely like, you know, the link between us. And like Bram's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Like Bram's about the only person I can think of who, like the only living person I can think of who's as smart as my girlfriend.
Really?
My girlfriend is terrifying. Like my girlfriend was one of the 4 commit bit holders on tour for several years.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. No, the only reason she doesn't have a dual degree in CS and physics from Cornell is because her grandparents were, you know, only willing to pay for 8 semesters, full stop. And she had a scheduling conflict in her final semester, which meant that she basically had to choose between CS or physics. So CS with a physics minor. But yeah, she runs rings around me.
What makes Bram like so genius?
Bram is a very, very long thinker.
Okay.
Like, Bram looks distracted sometimes. Bram is not distracted.
Yeah.
Bram always has like several like things the back of his brain is chewing on. And yeah, and he's also very good at like, you know, getting over himself and actually, you know, writing the code too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, because one of the most challenging things sometimes about like, you know, designing a system is like the fear of how am I gonna fuck it up when I actually implement it. It's like, you know, no plan ever survives for first contact with the enemy.
So Bram and Len were roommates.
They were roommates and they were super tight. Bram was the best man at our wedding.
Oh, he was?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. It was a very small wedding with just a handful of people at SF City Hall. But yeah.
What did they work on together?
Well, I mean, CodeCon for one thing. And like, you know, Bram was definitely bouncing ideas about BitTorrent off of Len.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I mean, Len always said he definitely felt, you know, like the rubber duck in those conversations. Like he was just kind of, you know, being the Hal Finney.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, he also like asked Len's advice on, well, how do we want to release, you know, how should we release this? And, you know, Bram has publicly mentioned that, you know, Len recommended that Bram publish it anonymously. And, you know, I think Len's reason for that was just the, you know, at that point the RIAA was, you know, a lot more of a 50-ton gorilla than it is now.
Okay.
Like, you know, nobody really is like afraid of a DMCA notice.
Yeah.
But, you know,
it was like a different time.
Yeah, it was a different time back then, and, you know, I think Len was just concerned about, you know, would Bram be able to handle the heat?
There's a couple Bram Cohen with Satoshi articles on the internet.
I mean, he could have. He's another person who I think would have had the skills. Yeah, I mean, I have no recollection of Bram being much of a Windows person, but you know, also I would not put it past him to just like, you know, quietly learn that and never mention it. Like Bram is full of surprises, but I also don't want to be putting any heat on Bram. So,
yeah,
like,
of course.
You know.
What were some of the coolest things that came out of, or at least from your experiences, that came out of CodeCon?
Oh gosh. Zuko took an axe to a laptop on stage. That was kind of cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Also, what were like the vibe? Like, I feel like this early internet shit is so interesting because it's just like 2005. Like I was 3, so like it's just like a different time now. Like
totally.
like the vibe, like the culture around it, I feel like is so fat. Like, what was like the vibes at these like code con? Like what were people doing? Like what were people creating? Like how are people interacting? Like
So the great thing about CodeCon was that it was it was founded on the principle of no bullshit, right? Because Len talks about this in like that old interview from 2006 with Irina Slutsky that's floating around online these days. In 2002, after the dot-com crash, nobody had the money to go to conferences anymore.
yeah.
But there were still tons and tons of tech conferences being thrown. It's just they were all they were all vaporware. They were basically elevator pitches.
Yeah.
Using the audience as would-be investors basically, and so nothing at all interesting for actual tech people.
Yeah.
So they were like, we should start a conference that has as a requirement that you have to demo your actual live running code. And so that's what they did. That was the hard requirement. And they put out the call for papers on the cypherpunks list and a bunch of Bay Area lists.
The fucking cypherpunks list.
Yeah, just pretty much any place that they thought there would be interested people. And yeah, they got a whole bunch of different kinds of projects, and there was definitely a big focus on privacy enhancing technologies. But a lot of them were like you'd see a lot more usability related stuff.
Okay.
For example, at the time, a lot of the people doing serious protocol development were working anonymously or not really talking super much about what they were working on, but they would publish when they had stuff done, right? So you'd get releases of privacy tools, and people would start building on those.
Do you think we'll see another wave of anonymously posting on the internet as I don't know, I feel like
did it ever really go away?
I feel at least in the maybe I just think about this and okay, talk about that. You don't feel like it's gone away?
I don't. I mean, it's changed shape a little bit.
Okay.
Insofar as people are more likely to use VPNs and pseudonyms to keep their online identities unlinked to their real world identities. But I mean, look at Chan culture.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, that's not even something that developed in America to begin with. We totally borrowed 4chan from Japan. And people don't publicly post pics of themselves getting blasted at parties or
for sure.
Nobody wants to have the poorly thought out spring break photo that ruins your chance at your dream job. So so you get pseudonyms and VPNs, which isn't necessarily going to protect your privacy as much, especially if if you're sloppy. VPN and persistent pseudonym isn't a particularly high bar to clear, and people screw that up all the time. Hell, I mean, ultimately, it was what got Ross.
Facts.
Yeah. So No, I mean, I think I think the desire has has never gone away, and it'll probably just continue. I mean, social media is kind of like the low rent surveillance state. Like we don't need a surveillance state anymore. We surveil ourselves.
We do it to ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, we do it to ourselves, and we like it.
Like, we say thank you.
God, I'm channeling Michel Foucault here. Let's not.
Did Len finish his PhD?
He did not. He was working on his thesis.
Okay. What was the thesis?
It was going to be what we call a stapler thesis. Like usually when you're working on a PhD, there are certain coursework requirements that you have to complete, and you have to publish papers in peer-reviewed venues. So like a certain number of workshop papers, a certain number of conference papers, and usually like one journal article. And like, we were working on the journal article when he died. We did in fact finish it.
Oh yeah?
Yes. That's the technical report out of Dartmouth that I'm hungry and I'm blanking on the name of the. But if you go to langsec.org, that's it. It's there. It's there. Yeah, and that was kind of the paper that laid out the fundamentals of language theoretic security as both like defense and attack methodology.
And you were helping him work on a lot of that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, he kind of shifted focus from privacy research to language theoretic security, like over the time that we were together. Of his own volition, because he realized that the core of like the vulnerabilities that we had found along with Dan Kaminsky in SSL certificates that allowed us to forge browser certificates. He realized that the kinds of systematic sloppiness in software that was giving rise to problems like that was actually a bigger threat to anonymity and privacy than needing to have more and better systems developed. Because if an adversary can, like, the feds can only run so many Tor servers, right? There's still always going to be Tor nodes, including exit nodes, that are run by honest people. But if the feds can take advantage of software flaws that basically result from bad grammar, and get remote code execution on every other Tor node in the world, every Tor node that they're not controlling, then you are screwed. Like that's how they get you these days. Like if the feds are coming after you, they cast a wide net so that they can be a passive global observer, just like sitting there with a bug on the wire in as many places as they can be.
Did you first hear about Bitcoin from Len?
I cannot remember whether I first heard about it from Len or from Twitter. I know I heard about it super duper early.
Well, I'm curious, like, was Bitcoin like an all-consuming thing in like your guys' life?
Not at all.
Really?
No.
No way.
I mean, just because we had other shit going on. I mean, because like we were writing papers together. He was working on his thesis. Oh, and I said stapler thesis earlier, and I forgot to explain what that was. So a stapler thesis is basically you take your papers that you've already published, and you construct a narrative through them.
Okay.
Like, you write like probably about a 15, 20 page introduction, and kind of like connecting chapters.
Dots,
but you just kind of show like this has been the thrust of my work.
Yeah.
And and as I have demonstrated, I can do research independently, and it's good research, and I should be a peer with you guys.
Cool.
That's how all that works. And Bart Purnell has actually he's got a standing offer out to me that if I can get all of the all of his document files together in basically the order I think he would have wanted them in. And he was using LaTeX, which is an open source typesetting system that basically everybody uses. Shout out to Don Knuth. So there probably actually is kind of a semi-organized, basically this is what it, kind of the order that everything would have gone in.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Bart has a standing offer to me, whenever I get my shit together and compile that and send it to him, he will finish it and make sure that Len gets his posthumous PhD.
Oh,
so
that's sick.
That's another reason to get over myself and actually look at the fucking drives.
We gotta look at the drives.
Yeah, that's.
No, we're gonna get the drives.
We're
gonna get a quote.
We're gonna get his fucking PhD published.
Let's get the fucking PhD. That's sick.
That's what we're gonna do.
That's really cool that he gave you a standing offer on that.
Yeah, no, Bart's a good dude. He told the Het News, which is basically the Fox News of Belgium, when they were because of course they had to run their own article, and they were really shitty about it too.
Huh.
But yeah, they tried to bug Bart about it, and he just he totally blew off.
No.
Yeah.
Going back to this, interesting that Bitcoin wasn't, because you would think it would be this all-consuming thing that took over your life.
Well, the thing is, I think Len was mad enough at the things that he perceived as flaws. He was concerned about. I mentioned Metcalf. I keep doing this, half explaining something.
Yeah.
But I mentioned Metcalf's law earlier.
Okay.
So the value of the network goes up as the square of the network, but also the communication complexity of the network.
Oh, it gets
up.
Harder.
Right.
So it's more valuable, but it's harder. It's more complex to communicate.
There's more messages that have to get sent.
Got it. That makes sense.
Because you have to gossip each transaction to everybody.
Everybody.
Right.
So the bigger it gets, the more complex.
Right. And so the greater the bandwidth cost, and of course there's the fact that the chain the full Bitcoin blockchain itself is actually quite large.
Yeah.
Certainly impractical to run on a phone or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, he was one thing that he and I definitely had in common was we see something that gets done wrong and we get kind of butt mad at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was kind of butt mad about things he perceived as flaws that he thought were going to torpedo it before it managed to take off, because he wanted to see it succeed.
Yeah.
But he was more of a pessimist than I think human ingenuity really bore out. And it's true that there had to be some later developments, like Lightning, for example, to reduce the cost of, to reduce the computational cost of sending messages. But the subtly brilliant thing, about the economics of Bitcoin, which I didn't really catch on to at the time, and if he did, he didn't tell me, is that, you know, the tax that you have to pay to miners, right? Like that incentivized people finding solutions for making it cheaper to send Bitcoin around.
There's always an incentive.
People wanted to lower those transaction fees. Yeah. So yeah, whoever Satoshi
It's kind of
was,
genius. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever Satoshi was really just a master of game theory, game theory and security economics. Like hell, while we're naming dead people, Ross Anderson probably could have done it.
Interesting.
But I'm also pretty sure it was not Ross Anderson.
Do you think the world will like ever verifiably figure out who Satoshi is?
I honestly don't know. I mean,
do you think Bitcoin is better off not knowing? Or
I'm starting to think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, it may just be that, you know, whoever it was destroyed the wallet, right?
Yeah.
Because that could have happened.
Have you ever seen like an anonymous persona with that large of stature at like that scale, like actually like land a plane basically and just never be uncovered or found, or like it's kind of insane.
Oh, okay. Until you got to never be uncovered or found, I was going to say the Federalist Papers.
Okay.
Because those were originally written under pseudonyms.
Okay.
But no.
But like the never found part is crazy. Like in 2024 with all the people in tech and capability, like has that ever been done before?
It's absolutely incredible OPSEC. Yeah. And I mean, that alone, you know, lends credence to, I think at least, to the hypothesis that, you know, it was a team of feds in the first place. Because certainly, you know, like all of the primitives that had been laid out at that point.
What would be the upside for, like, why would it be a team of feds? God, that would be crazy.
There were always feds on the cypherpunk list. Like,
okay,
anybody could
make sense.
Anybody could subscribe. So you know, there were feds who did, and yeah, I don't pretend to like know the ways of the deep state.
Yeah.
But you know, actually, God, when if you want a good, like, you know, back of the napkin definition of a cypherpunk, look for someone who was using the phrase deep state in the late 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, like everybody who's using that phrase now, like they got it from the cypherpunks.
Ah, word.
Yeah.
Deep state. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. That would be crazy if it was like the fucking CIA or some shit created Bitcoin. I think it's a pretty popular theory.
I mean, a buddy of mine way the hell back in, like, shit, I was definitely still living in SF then, so this probably would have been 2008. Fuck me. Yeah, no, a buddy of mine who was working at Apple at the time, like, you know, just on their developer tools, but you know, was reasonably well clued into interesting things going on. You know, he asked me at one point, you know, what are the odds that, like, some federal agency is just trying to collect the world's largest dictionary of SHA-256 hashes?
That's crazy. Huh. That's insane.
I mean,
that's nuts.
If you wanted to make, you know, if you wanted to make a set of rainbow tables for SHA-256, but you didn't want to, you know, spend all the computing power on it yourself, what better way to do it than to incentivize a bunch of nerds into, you know, accidentally an entire financial system?
That's insane. Do you think there's like a comparable community or like place on the internet to like the OG cypherpunks list?
I cannot think of one. I honestly cannot. It was a moment in time.
Is that just like a time and place? Like, is that just how it works? Like, it's just like a time and place thing that like exists and then it doesn't?
I do, and I specifically, I think a lot of that was kind of, you know, contingent on, you know, when it happened in history, right? Yeah. Because the internet was a lot smaller in the late 90s.
Like, a lot of things have to come together for that to exist, right?
Right, and you know, it makes sense that, you know, people who are interested in weird internet technologies would be, you know, would be early adopters. Right. Hell, I know plenty of people, you know, my age and younger who could have gotten broadband in like the late 90s, but why would they?
Yeah, why would they?
The internet was supposed to be a fad.
Yeah.
Like people were putting that in print, you know.
Is there any like really quality like media around what was happening at that time, like articles and like papers or like movies or like?
Jason Scott did a really good documentary on DEF CON, the conference, which, although it's not like I mean, the cypherpunks, I would say, are kind of like a subset of that community, if you will. But like, yeah, the DEF CON documentary is fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's whenever it comes back up, it's on the Internet Archive.
Sick.
Yeah, and Stephen Levy's book, Hackers. Yeah, that actually gets into a lot of the early history of the tech as well as the people.
Okay, word.
Yeah, like it starts out like, you know, explaining like where did RSA come from.
All right, we covered a lot.
Yeah.
We covered a fucking lot. I guess bringing it back all the way to last weekend, crypto, meme coin craziness, like where's it all going? How are you feeling about it? How are these coins? Are you involved with any of them? Like where's this all going?
Well, I mean, it's really kind of surprised me because, you know, at first, you know, I looked at like, you know, holy crap, there's like, you know, 4 different Len coins and 5 different Sasha coins and, you know, people, you know, yapping at each other about PvP and like, you know, I'm just kind of trying to make any sense of it. But like, you know, just over the course of a couple of days, like it's kind of settled out pretty quickly, like, you know, what was a pump and dump and what was, you know, a group of people, you know, with a genuine interest in something. I mean, like, you know, I found out very, very recently that, you know, one of the Sasha coins has decided to start fundraising for suicide prevention charities,
that's awesome.
Which is, I mean, that's fucking fantastic. Like, I would never have thought that, like, you know, a meme coin of a cat, you know, would, like, you know, just suddenly develop governance and find a goal, but like that's happening. And, you know, the Pynchon gate thing is even cooler because, you know, if we do actually manage to, you know, to finish off that implementation, you know, there's an old partial implementation that Nick Mathewson, one of the founders of Tor, had started in like 2013 in Python 2 and C. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we're planning to update that to Python 3 and Rust and release an open source library that, you know, that other projects can build on, because private information retrieval is, you know, just another primitive, and it's a primitive that we don't really have like a great working implementation of. So, you know, we can fix that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's like a feel good.
It really is. Like I had not, really had a sense of like the scope, I guess, just of how many people Len managed to reach. You know, I wish he could have seen it himself.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited about, you know, the direction things are going. You know, and if you know, if things keep staying decentralized and don't start, you know, drifting in the direction of banks again, you know, I can definitely see myself hanging around longer.
So that'd be a weird thought, but like, do you think meme coins are like the killer use case of crypto?
I'm still. Tell you what, ask me that again, like in about 6 months.
Okay, I will.
Because I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around, like, how that entire little attention economy works. And like, I'm not saying little in, you know, to try and be like, you know, diminutive about it or anything, because there's some incredibly interesting shit going on here. You know, one of my favorite writers is a guy named Herbert Simon, who, you know, he's notable for having won both the Turing Award, which is kind of like the Lifetime Achievement Award for computer science, and the Nobel Prize in economics.
Damn.
Yeah. He's the guy that came up with the concept of attention economy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Say his name again.
Herbert Simon.
Herbert Simon. Okay.
Yeah. He also did a bunch of really cool work with a guy named Gabe Newell.
Okay.
Newell. And this was back in, like, you know, the 60s and 70s when he was writing. Like, I think Simon died in the 90s. But yeah, his work really, I think, presaged, you know, a lot of what's gone on with, you know, really the entire internet economy.
Yeah.
You know, even beyond crypto. Certainly, you know, marketers all over the internet space are focused on, like, you know, demand side attention economics, you know, what the brands want, right? Because the brands want attention from, you know, from you. Like, they're the ones demanding your attention. And what I think meme coins are finally kind of surfacing some mechanics for us to apprehend, like to get a handle on, is what the supply side of attention economics looks like. And that to me is exciting. Like, that's a chewy problem. Like, I don't know what we can learn from this, and I'm excited to find out.
Huh. I feel like I need to go back and like read some of this stuff.
I can send you a reading list.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, I
He's
can
writing about
absolutely send you
attention
a reading.
economy in the 60s.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he said that information is that which consumes attention.
Huh. That's a bar. Information is that which consumes attention.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, and I mean, and already, like, in the 70s, there was more information out there than any one person could reasonably process.
And now it's just like
yeah. You have no chance of ever expecting to and that was a lesson I had to learn, like, on social media. Like, there was a brief time period, you know, when Twitter was so small and I was following so few people that I could actually get to the end of my feed.
no, there's no such thing.
And now it's like, no, you will never step in the same tweet stream twice.
That like used to be a thing. I remember even like on Instagram, you would like get to the end of your feed.
Yeah.
It was like a thing.
And you never do anymore. Yeah. Because there's just so much out there.
Oh, that's crazy. I like forgot that existed ever. I remember you like hit the last Instagram and then you go back and refresh at the top and there'd be some couple new posts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it wouldn't just be like an endless scroll that could actually never get to the end of.
Right. Yeah, and like, you know, that's just a UX tweak, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they're adding stuff from other streams, you know, like whatever they want their algorithm to recommend to you, but they can also, like, you know, if new things get posted by people you're following, they can just, add it at the bottom, and you just keep scrolling down forever.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess now that all of this, maybe after this podcast is released, Satoshi, HBO documentary stuff has kind of like ran its course. How do you feel?
Still a little bit bewildered, there's still a part of me that's kind of going like, did that happen?
Yeah, like what the fuck? Yeah.
But like, it wasn't bad. Yeah. That was kind of the most astonishing thing about it, was like, I was absolutely expecting to have to find private security for my parents and get ready for all kinds of, because people can be terrible on the internet.
Of course.
But people overwhelmingly chose to just be really chill and positive on the internet. There's something really nice about 500 people DMing you to say that your cats are cute. Yeah.
And we're gonna get a quote on the hard drive.
Yeah, no, we're absolutely gonna get a quote.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've been recommended a service, and we will absolutely get a quote.
So I guess before we wrap here, the worst end off question in the history, but are there any final thoughts that you want to share? Or anything we didn't touch on that you want to say? Anything you kind of want to close on?
Oh gosh.
I know it's the worst question in the
world. That is the worst question.
And I ask it every time, and I say it's the worst every time. I never change it.
Well, I'm just gonna be glib and sincere at the same time, and just let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
Meredith Patterson, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for supporting. I'll catch you when I catch you. I'll see you when I see you. Have a great rest of your day. Love you, motherfuckers. Peace. Banger.
All right.
That was sick. Thank you so much.
This has been so much fun.
You had a good time?
I did.
Genuinely?
I really genuinely did.
All right, cool. I'm glad.